Tuatahi, kai te mihi atua hau ki a kūtau katoa, e ngā mana, e ngā kārangaranga maha. Whakatau mai rā I tēnei tā tātou Wānanga. Nā reira, no mātou te waimarie, no mātou te honore, kia whakapua ki whakaaro e pāna ki ngā kaupapa kei mui a tātou I tēnei rangi, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Welcome. Huge welcome to you all. Thank you for making the time to join us. It's a huge privilege and honour to present our research projects to you today, our ideas, our thoughts, and we will be welcoming any of your questions on chat, and we are looking to make time at the end at around about 4:15, for discussion and of course questions. Nā reira, tēnā kūtau anō. He mihi tēnei ki a koe, he mi? Kōrua korea. Kei te kawea e kōrua, nā tino kaupapa o te Mātāwai, nā reira, e ōku rangatira, tēnā kōrua, tēnā rawatu ki a kōrua. Without further ado, genuine thanks to Hemi and to Ria, our first speakers for today, around the good work of Te Mātāwai. I can't wait to listen to this. Engari, e mua I tā tātou tīmatana. Just before we begin, let's start with karakia. Nā reira e te atua. Kei konei mātou e tuku atu ani tēnei tā mātou inoi atu ki a koe, ki a taupai, tō manaakitanga I runga I a mātou. Kia taupai tō manaakitanga I runga I o mātou whānau. Kia tikai wā mātou kōrero, mātou nā kai whakapuaki. Ka whakahoki atu, te whakamoimiti atu ki a koe, I nā wā katoa. Gloria ki tō ingoa tapu. Āmene. Yes. Wow. It's time to go. I don't know about you. I can't frankly see any of you, but hey, I am sure you're just as excited as me. Let's start. Hemi kei a kōrua korea te wā, tēnā kōrua.
Just a little bit of musical cheers here just to begin this afternoon. Hoeno, tuatahi, mihi ana ki a koe tau e he nā rā tātou katoa I whakariti tēnei hao te ahi. Tēnā hoki koutou e hono mai ana ki tēnei whakāturanga poto I tēnei ahi. Nau mai koutou katoa. Hoeno, welcome to this presentation this afternoon focused on Te Mātāwai and Māori language revitalisation here in Aotearoa, New Zealand. My name is Hemi Dale. I'm a descendant of the far north. If I got any further north, I'd be in Samoa, but I belong to the Te Rarawa and Opauri tribal groups of Muri Whenua. I'm also the director here of Māori Medium Education, the Faculty of Education and Social Work here at the University of Auckland. And I'm a board member of Te Mātāwai representing the urban Māori constituency. Anyway, more about all of those things presently, all will be revealed in the fullness of time, so they say. But for this moment, I'm just going to pass over to my co-presenter, Ria, who's probably going to introduce herself, I guess, and she's going to get our presentation underway. Kia ora, Ria.
Kia ora Hemi. Tēnā koutou katoa, tuatai kei te mihi hoki kia koe tauwihe, nau I whakarite te wāhi mō tēnei hui. Kia koutou katoa e hono mai ana, kaureu e kai te kite ki o kanohi, but kia ora, ko tēnei hiuri o Ngāti Kahungunu, Ngāti Pāhauera me Te Atiawa. He aho honori engari. Hemi only asked me yesterday, so ko tēnā taku disclaimer clause, ko au te kaiwhakahaere rangahau I Te Mātāwai. So it does make sense that Hemi has asked me to co-present with him. Well, me tīmata, Hemi, shall I start? Yep.
Let's go.
I'll just share my PowerPoint. It's very short and hopefully there'll be no death by PowerPoint happening today for anybody. One moment. Can you see that screen? Ka tae e koe hemi te kite?
Kei te kite atu. Kei te kite atu.
So, just to start off the thinking, we just had this little question of what does the Māwhia and Māori language revitalisation have in common? That's not going to be the theme of the presentation, but it's just something to think about, just to start off the after lunch kind of thought processes. So we'll start with what we actually do. And Te Mātāwai, if you know about us, we are the independent statutory entity that was created to work on behalf of iwi as the kaitiaki for Te Reo Māori in conjunction with the Crown. So we have the Mahi Māori strategy, and the Crown, all the government agencies, have formed a Mahi Korona strategy. And so for us at Te Mātāwai, we're specifically directed by Kiau Kaipua no Te Reo, and we have these two outcome areas, tuakiri, whakatupuranga, and we have two big kind of ways in which we, Te Mātāwai, the people who put this strategy together, believe that we're going to get there, and that's through the use of immersion environments, which is quite relevant to the people you work with, Hemi, and deal revitalisation planning. So that's the big picture and what we're trying to get to. And Kia Kaipua no Te Reo is about getting us back to a place where Te Reo Māori is the nurturing first language. We, the research team within Te Mātāwai, we have a strategic agenda that Hemi and his colleagues set, and that directs our work program. I could put up the 14 or so different projects to give you a sense of all the different research projects, but we're quite short on time here. So these are the strategic agenda is what tells us what's important.
Lost a bit of sound here.
Oh, can you hear?
No, all good now. You're
sorry.
Back on form.
Back on, right. So what does the research team at Te Mātāwai do? And I thought it might be useful just to get a kind of tangible example. Okay, so in our strategy, you'll see a pink circle around. By 2040, Te Reo Māori will be the first language of 25% of all Māori children aged 0 to 7. So if we want to work to that goal, you know, how do we do it? And so we need to understand what are the conditions that create 0 to 7-year-olds having Te Reo Māori as their first language, knowing that, you know, there's where we have certain conditions that already exist, but by 2040, these conditions need to be actually top-notch, full-on, not patchy for these for at least 25% of these 0 to 7-year-olds. And so if we look at where they live, the whānau needs to be able to have a level of ability. They need to be able to use it. They need to be able to be connected with other whānau outside of their own household. So wherever that child goes, that child realises that Te Reo Māori is the preferred language of use, not an alternative, but the preferred. The children aged 5 to 7 at least need to be able to get their, not ECE, but their formal education in Te Reo Māori. We need to be able to have not just the parents, but the older siblings and the other whānau members need to have a level of ability of knowledge and use. They all need to be feeling confident and connected to being Māori. And the greatest societal kind of view of Te Reo Māori and Māori language, Te Ao Māori, needs to be at a high level where if you speak Māori at the supermarket, no heads swing around and look at you as if you're a bit strange, or, you know, that that's what you do. So what does that mean? If by 2040 we need to have 25%, then that means all those little conditions need to be present in all the different communities across Aotearoa, because Stats New Zealand tells us that by 2028, we will have 40,000 Māori tamariki between 0 and 7. So when you look at it that way, how many homes, how many whānau, how many parents, how many older siblings, korau, hui, aunties, uncles, they all make up the domains where intergenerational transmission takes place. How many kohanga, how many kura, how many Wānanga? What's the provision of te reo Māori like in English medium? How many immersion domains need to be created to support 40,000 tamariki? And what you see here is sorry, I'll go back, is the map of New Zealand. It's very poorly crafted. But in each of those communities, those conditions are slightly different because they all start out in different places. They have different natural resources. Maybe I think about Mātāwai, which has a dense population of speakers who speak at a high level. You think of the geographical expanse of Te Waipounamu. And so what's needed there? I know that Toby here is going to be talking about this virtual reality, and when we can't access people because of geographical limitations or COVID limitations, how do we create these communities? And so what the research kind of looks at is what are the conditions that enable these things, that works about what's in the home, how do we help people? And so I'm speeding through this quite quickly. What does the research say that works? We did a literature review that was undertaken by NZCR, and language planning is critical. People have a precious amount of time, precious amount of resource. So if they want to do something, if they take the time to plan out what they want to do, then they've got a more likelihood of everything aligning to get to a point. Te Mātāwai has been investing in a group called who deliver some whakaraura reo workshops, which actually takes whānau through what do I need to think about? Well, how do I create an immersion domain within my whare? How do I increase my use? How do I increase my knowledge? Who are my resources that I can access? And those are all the things you need to consider so that the plan you want to put in practice is realistic and not idealistic. And the research says that a tuakana taina model is very effective. That's how do we learn off the people we already have, knowing that everyone can teach us something different. You might have more knowledge about the kupu, but I might have more knowledge about strategies because I have very few, so I need better strategies to use what I have, even though I don't have as much knowledge. So the tuakana taina model came out as something very effective. Local level leadership is crucial because one of the key ingredients for kia kaipua no te reo and intergenerational transmission, or whakatipuranga, is that it happens in the home and community. And so it won't just happen with one person, and it might not just happen with one whānau. So who is the person bringing these people together? Because the leader, the rangatira, weaves the people together to create a cohesive community of speakers. For those of you who are learning to be teachers or who are actually teaching at the moment at Auckland, safe learning environments, well, that's essential for anything. But the research through our Motivations and Barriers research project, the extra vulnerability that Māori people have because of the colonisation piece we're coming through is even more so. And so how do you, as a teacher, or how do you, if you know a lot, you're fluent, how do you create the space where someone will feel comfortable to ask you any question and not think, oh, I don't want to make them hoha. I really want to ask a question, but they might get hoha with me because they think it's a basic question. How do you create it so that the learner doesn't feel that? The learner wants to ask you, the learner wants to use you as a resource. Immersion and learning environments. These actually immersion learning environments and immersion environments are a key fundamental pillar of the mahi Māori. And the point about that is in the immersion space, when you're learning, especially when you have people who have a higher level, you get a chance to hear the informal, spontaneous reo being used, as well as your production, use of te reo Māori is what you have to do right from the start. You don't do a translation of, I learn a word in Māori and in English, I translate it back into Māori. You are learning the word for what it is for a te ao Māori, te reo Māori environment, and that gives that word more depth of meaning. Integrating te reo Māori into everyday activities, this speaks to the fact that our people are time poor. And if we want them to take on this challenge of changing their behaviour in terms of how much they know, they need to learn more, or how much they use, they need to use more, that takes time and effort. And if we can mitigate the drain on their time and effort by giving them te reo or taking te reo to them or where they go to, if they hang out at the sports clubs, take it there. They hang out at somewhere else, take it there. Yeah, that's for that one. Having at least one te reo Māori speaker in the home. The research in the education sector, at least, has shown that for children who have one te reo Māori speaker in the home, they have a higher chance of being able to speak Māori and actually do well in education. So if you don't have one te reo Māori speaker in your home, be that person. All you need is one, because then you can have two. And then you'll have someone to talk to. And one of the things is that language is a network good. The stronger and closer and denser the network is, the higher the value of having it. So if you have lots of people that you can speak Māori to, who will speak Māori to you, then there's more value in having it. And the last one is when communities, this is from our rangatahi research project, is one of the things was that if adults set expectations for using te reo Māori with rangatahi, the rangatahi will follow it. So even if you don't know if they've been through kura or not, speak Māori to them and they will respond if they can, because they follow the example set by the adults and by what's expected in that context. I'm just going through this. And so, what can you do, you who are giving your precious time today? Well, the research would say, make a plan, If you are Māori and you want to feel more connected to being Māori, then learning te reo Māori is a great mechanism to achieve that. So make a plan of how you're going to do it. Identify your role and how you can contribute. It doesn't matter how much language knowledge you have, everybody's got an ability to contribute. You just have to consider, well, what can I do? I don't know much, but I know lots of people. I don't know much, but I can organise lots of people to come someplace. Community leadership. Who's a leader in your whānau or in your community? Sidle up to them. And if there isn't one, then you be it. That when we talk about community leadership, we're not talking about they're the top of the maunga. There's leaders all the way up the maunga to achieving language revitalisation. And we need as many as possible, because if I go back to that map of 40,000 tamariki, and if there's at least 3 tamariki in each whānau, or 4 tamariki in each whānau, that's 10,000 whānau. And so, how many leaders can bring a group of whānau together? Maybe one leader can handle 10 whānau. 10,000 whānau divided by 10, we need 1,000 community leaders. I'm sure we already have them, but if they are prioritising their leadership in terms of progressing te reo Māori outcomes, then we're in a good place. The next one is be realistic with your time. We all start off passionate and full of inspiration, kind of like losing weight every year, but let's be realistic. And that's where planning comes in. Let's actually be realistic for everything that you are responsible for. I'm a parent, I work full time, I coach a hockey team, I run my whānau, something or other. Take off 5 hours and you'll start to realise how many hours you actually have available contribute to this. So you know, underestimate how much time you have when you're doing a plan. Collaborate with others. Community and cohesion is critical. And the last one, which came out through, you know, quite a few of the research projects, and that's just about aroha ki te tangata. We all have we're all in different places along this journey, and we're all trying to get back to feeling comfortable about who we are as Māori. Some are already there, some haven't even started, some are starting and may have had a few ups and downs, because this, you know, learning someone else's language is easy. If you don't get it, it doesn't matter. But learning your own language, and then you feel you're not getting there, well then you start to question yourself. So aroha ki te tangata is a biggie. And so before I go to that one, do you have anything to hear me? I just kind of ran through it all.
I know we're getting close to the edge in terms of the amount our time, but just to say that the findings that Ria is sharing are part of our work agenda at Te Mātāwai in terms of having research projects which we're commissioning in order to know what works, what things to invest time and energy into, and what things maybe are of lesser importance there. The whole notion of intergenerational language transmission is not an easy one, but there are lots of reasons to feel positive about the different initiatives that we are supporting as part of that. There are probably some other things that I could say, but I know we're very close, and there's a final slide here, which was the answer to the initial provocation from Ria about what's the connection between the mafia and Māori language revitalisation. And she'll explain it because she's got the punchline there. Just also say, if you have any questions, please send them through the chat, the chat function, and we'll be looking to respond to those either, if we can, with at the end here, or and by email or some other way. Ria.
I don't know if it's a punchline, but there's a couple of things. And this is not to say that the mafia, we're not using them because of their criminal side, but their absolute strength in their cohesion and connectivity and about whānau. Because you can never leave the whānau, is one of the things of them. Once you're in, you can never leave. And we need as many people on this journey to get our 1 million users of Te Reo Māori and community immersion domains. So if we can learn from the mafia, it's about whānau, community and connectivity.
Kia ora.
So,
all right, we're just about on time. I think Taui is going to occupy the chair again there. Thank you, Ria. Kia ora no rā koutou e mātakitaki mai nei, whakarongo mai nei. Kia māua kōrero i tēnei ahi ai. Taui.
Kia ora. Right, here we go. Okay, koewa no tēnei. Tēnā koutou. Wow. I mean, wow. Ria, I'm just blown away. You know, it's all very well to read it on the Mātāwai website, but to actually hear you and hear me just give real life examples, bring it to life. I'm so appreciative, and I'm sure our audience would be feeling the same. Nā reira, tēnā rā wātu kia kōrua. He mihi anō tēnei he mi Ria ki tō koutou upoko hō. Ana ko poi a riwi tēnā. Me mihi atu ki aia, nā te mea Ria, nā poia tēnei tā mātou rangahau I whakai I te rātau. Nāna, iaia e whakahaere ana I te rautaki o te reo me nā tikana mō ngā pai o te māramatanga. Nā reira, me mihi atu ki aia, me mihi atu ki a kōrua, kia koutou katoa o te Mātāwai, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. That's us, and thank you for that presentation. Look, I'm just going to share my screen, whānau. And we have it on my Facebook. I'm just trying to find it here. I wonder if I can go out. Sorry to hold this up, everyone, but I'll just try and get my desktop up here. Can you help at all to get that up? Yeah, now it's, so we don't want that one. I want that one. Go back to Zoom, and I just need to find, there it is, it's that one, so I need to find it. And we're going to go back in, yep, and we'll try sharing it now. This one, cool. I hope you can see our first slide, whānau. I'll take that as a yes. Koira, ko tēnei te tapanga o tā mātou rangahau, te ao tuatu, the next world for te reo and tikanga Māori. I'd like to acknowledge Associate Professor Tony Trinick, who wasn't able to present with me today as our PI, our co-PI, sorry, and also our research assistant, Anita Girls. She is also very much in our group. So we're a group of 3, mātou te toko toru, and we have huge aspirations for this research project. But we do have a short piece of time, and I will go over that now. So we'll just bring up that second slide. When I say time, I'm meaning that we are due to produce our literature review and our report to our funder, Ngā Pai o Te Māramatanga. So huge shout out to Ngā Pai for supporting us in our research. I'd like to share what happened that supports the research this year. And I do have to refer to last year. Yes, last year. It was the first Pai Matihiko Digital Horizons Forum that I organised here at the University of Auckland Faculty of Education. Because when I was on research and study leave, whānau, I was up in Europe. I spent time in England, and I spent most of the time working with our whanaunga, who are revitalising their Gaelic language in Scotland. And what I was amazed at was the openness, particularly in Europe, to the use of virtual technology as tools for language immersion, language revitalisation, language normalisation. So I came back and I put together a proposal to Ngā Pai o Te Māramatanga to hold a forum where we could come together. And you'll be reading the slide there. And in a nutshell, we had representatives from all sectors of Māoridom. And the forum was conducted in a very kaupapa Māori way. We had karanga, we had whai kōrero. At sometimes, you know, the presenter, I will say one of our presenters actually, she just burst out in tears. There you go, there you go. Tangi pai ia, mo te kaha o te ngākau, tōna ngākau, ki wēnei o ngā momo huarahi hei whakarauora i tō tātou reo. She felt so strongly, so passionately about what we can do in this space with virtual technologies for our language and our tikanga. So something happened in the water, whānau, last year at the 2009 Pai Matihiko Digital Horizons Forum. People started dreaming. They started visualising. What could we do for our language, te reo Māori, and our tikanga with these tools. And really that was when things started to generate. And that led to a second application that I put into our funder, Ngā Pai o te Māramatanga, for this year's research. And here it is. Yes, it's Te Ao Tuatu, the next world for te reo and tikanga Māori. What does that next world look like? To us, to Māori, to our families, to our marae. They were all there last year, marae, kura kaupapa were represented, rangatahi, those who are working with our people in education, Māori medium, just all sectors. And we were all, I think we really enjoyed dreaming. That was the key. And this year, it's about the continuation through this research of that dreaming process. So in respect to our funder, Ngā Pai o te Māramatanga, we are looking at particularly, of course, te reo Māori and tikanga on the Ngā Pai o te Māramatanga Reo Māori and Tikanga Māori Research Platform Program. We're looking particularly at wawata, āheinga, aspirations of our people, our families, our aunties, our karaua, our kuia, and capabilities to allow those aspirations to actually come to fruition. We're looking at whakarauoratanga and whakawaiatanga, sorry, revitalisation and normalisation. So what happened if you could go into a cafe on your virtual reality app and actually start learning all the language you would use in a cafe? If you were an owner of a cafe, that's your room, that's your virtual room, you can have that one. You're a person who wants to catch up with whānau or friends, so you've got your ruma, kei a koe tō wāhanga o taua āhuatana, or you are someone from another language and you want to use your language, be it Japanese, Mandarin, Spanish, and you actually want to know how to say that in Māori as well while you're having a coffee. So how do we normalise it if we were to use these tools? And then, what is it about the whakarahinga and the kounga? Whakarahinga and the kounga. How much can we do? How much do we need? How many of these apps do we need? And which specific domains? In government, education, at the zoo, in the cafes. How much? What's the quantity? And what is the quality there? What are the specific genre of real Māori that is devoted to each of those domains? So we're asking and thinking about all those areas as we strive and work toward meeting our objectives and our aims for our funder, Ngā Pai o te Māramatanga. What are our questions? I've only got 2 here. We do have more, but our questions are, what does the literature tell us? And I can say that, I'll tell you now, nothing. There you go. Very little. Specifically, anyway, around us as a people, our language, te reo, and our tikanga. However, we are getting through the literature review and there's lots of research that we are pulling from in Aotearoa here and around the world that does align to virtual, artificial intelligence, AI, mobile technologies, augmented reality, XR, the combination of both. So we are pulling that together as well. He mea whakaro whānui mā koe ki. Hei whakatutuki I wēnei o wā mātou, whakaro wā mātou whāinga, ki te tuhi I tēnei te rārangi whakapuakanga, this literature review. Second question, I've highlighted that. What are the research priorities for the development and use of these, what I'm calling VAME or Marikorau technologies. That's VAME, virtual, AI and mobile technologies to regenerate te reo and whānau and in communities, iwi and hapu, as well as tikanga. Well, thankfully, our ethics has supported us in returning to, that's it, our 2019 attendees, those who engaged with us either online, via email or in person at the 2019 Pai Matihiko Digital Horizons Forum. And it was well attended. And it's a personal pleasure of mine to be presenting to you, because that is what we wanted. We kind of, at the end of it, we thought, what if another research project could actually be created? And I'm talking to you about it today. We are looking today at our initial findings for our qualitative data. That is our Zoom semi-structured interviews, which we've conducted, facilitated during August. And this month, in September, we are carrying out our quantitative data collection, which is our online survey. Nā, he kōrero e pāna ki tērā te tuarua, me te kohi rarauna I runga I te whārangi pātaitai o te ipurani, the online survey. We've gained ethics approval to send back to each interviewee our online survey so that they will distribute our online survey to their extended whānau. We actually believe that this rautaki is, you know, I heard Ria say, it's all about the whānau. It's what is happening. What is Nana and Koko thinking about these? Are they thinking about them? Perhaps the survey will prompt thought. What are our rangatahi thinking about them? Now, the online survey is, of course, restricted to young people over the age of 16, but we hope that in sending that out, parents will be able to comment on what their little ones are doing, kohanga reo, their primary school children are doing, and we hope that we'll get data, rich data from that as well. So, what are the findings? Here goes. Okay. For this interview, I've prepared it for today as a voice for rangatahi Māori. And these particular rangatahi Māori were described as vulnerable and needing support. I would suggest support in a very sensitive and meaningful relationship. And this is what this particular interviewee said. There's so many layers, different layers, when this interviewee was thinking through what could actually happen in a virtual, augmented space for our rangatahi who are feeling vulnerable. Different layers can be created using these technologies to connect them, to support them, to surround them with avatars that will be that support, that will provide that connection, to build their confidence, to strengthen their resilience, to build on their strengths, and to edify and uplift them in their identity so that they do know who they are and they will be able to stand on their own 2 feet. And they'll know they're not alone. And it was a shock to me. I will be honest, during this interview, I just kind of went, there's the actual words, that's the quote, cause a lot of our rangatahi feel that they are alone. That's the worst thing ever. Feeling that you have nobody. This is, in terms of the analysis, we're thinking, okay, where is that taking us? And that's for the next stage, I would suspect, whānau. And I'm hopeful that we can once again return to you to say, what does that mean, if I could use the word again, in physical reality rather than virtual? What else is here? This interviewee I have presented here for you as a voice for communities. Absolutely. I cried during this Zoom because this interviewee was very well experienced in working in our hapu, our whānau, our iwi communities around, not actually necessarily virtual, but around technologies. And this is what this interviewee said. I do want to read it because I hope by reading it to you, you'll hear what I heard, and it got to me. I did shed tears. If we assume that we have community relationships and that our projects are driven in terms of partnerships, then I think one of the biggest things is data sovereignty, which is really about keeping the mātauranga safe. All the knowledge is kept safe and secure. Understanding who owns that artifact, whether it's a marae, a maunga, an awa, who owns that data, then you can understand how the data can be managed. That resonated with me because so many of our taonga can be taken. And that was a caution for me as a researcher during this particular interview. I'd love to hear your feedback or any questions on this one as well. And finally, a voice for innovation. This particular interview, I read it out, I kind of, rather than cry, I kind of giggled all my way through this interview. Very, very animated interviewee. And I'd like to read this as well. So in speaking about these virtual environments, these virtual tools, whether they're augmented, virtual, or a combination of both as XR, this is what this interviewee said. Not just digital education resources. So don't limit these environments to just education, but gamifying it. Yeah, making them games in a real high-end way. Good expectations and a Māori lean about it. Yeah, it feels that and seems like we're a very creative bunch, being Māori. And up until maybe only 70 years ago, all our communication was through creative means, whether it was waiata, kapahaka dance, carvings, and the list did go on. So these digitals, meaning virtual, especially AR and virtual, allow you to create beautiful end results. So I think it just fits perfectly with who we are. I would like to end our presentation once again on behalf of Associate Professor Tony Trillick, co-PI of our research project, and our research assistant Anita Gills. Thank you for watching. We do have our references here as well, or not all of them, but relevant ones for our presentation. Nā reira, e te whānau. Tēnā koutou. Kia reare mai, o koutou taringa ki tēnei āhuatana, kuinei momo hangarau. Ai, mō ngā rā, ngā marama, me ngā tau e tū mai nei. Tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa kahuri. Right. Hemi, would you like to join me? I think we might have some questions on chat. Here we go. Okay. Ooh. Here they come. It's exciting. First time I've been on this.
Okay.
Okay. Right. Yes, there is a. Okay. Perhaps I'll just scroll up here. Thank you for ngā mihi. Thank you for those. Everyone here. While you're thinking about...
Ka pai, tēnā koe Molly, ka pai.
Okay, Molly, we have Hemi here. Perhaps, Hemi, you might have some kōrero for Molly.
Nā hoi no, mihi ana ki a koe Molly, ka pai tō tikitei tō hononga mai te ahi nei. Just some thoughts. I'm just thinking a little bit about what you were talking about, tauwehe, and some of the work. Its intersection with te Mātāwai, and particularly the part of our work which is to do with investment in our communities. Many of you may well be aware, or possibly may not, that part of what te Mātāwai does is to provide funding for those who apply on the basis of the criteria that we have with different projects around revitalising te reo Māori within the whānau context, within the hapori, the community context, or in other domains as well. And so Ria may have some more data, but some of what you're talking about, virtual reality, avatars, all of that, the whole use of technology as part of revitalisation is a rapidly developing area. One thing we've noticed is there are some constants. The different form of Wānanga are one particular strategy, if you like, which is still popular amongst our applicants. But innovation is part of what we're also interested in, and so what you were talking about this afternoon is certainly part of that innovation wave in terms of how we better connect, enable, provide opportunities for our varying communities to be part of the revitalisation wave. Ria, I'm just looking at your screen here. I'm not seeing your photo, but have you got anything, your picture, but have you got anything that you wanted to add at this point?
No, I'm just seeing questions about some of our research, and we're just in a funny spot where our website's been updated, so I can't direct you there. So I'm just looking to see these questions, but people can ask via our rangahau at mātāwai.maori.nz email, and we can fire off the PDF once we get it formatted. And Ruthie, Lou and Danielle, I don't know what your name in real life is, but the question about the rangatahi research, and that's almost at the point of being formatted ready for distribution. So if you want to email me, then we'll have our email address, and when it's done we can forward that out. Yeah.
That other thing, Ria, just what we're talking research, one of the things that's really important to us is around the whole area of dissemination of the research in ways which are understandable, digestible by our various communities. And so Ria's spearheaded a lot of that work there. Do you want to just comment a little bit on that, Ria?
Yeah, and so we have research reports which are great for researchers, but what we want to create, because the change agents that we really have in whānau and communities are whānau people, other parents, all the community-based leaders who don't necessarily want to read a 120-page research report. So we're putting together some guidelines of, well, if you wanted to create a plan, what would it look like? From the rangatahi research, we want to put together some scripts around how to engage and work with rangatahi, I guess, is some of the things. So it's about, we can do a research project, but the real gold lies in taking the consumable bits that people want to consume and put it out in a way that is useful. You know, knowledge is only useful when you apply it. So we're not quite there at that bit, but we know that it's important.
I think Ria and kia korua tahi, tragically, my brother-in-law passed away during our COVID. And it was, you know, here I am researching, and then I was kind of in it. In other words, our nieces and nephews, you know, 15 in the whānau, 15 siblings in my husband's whānau, and so they all got children and mokopuna tuatahi tuarua. And so here we were connecting via cell phone, actually at the tangi, and allowing our nieces and nephews who live in Puihākena, Ahitereiria, to join us. I really, yeah, it's one thing I think for me as a researcher, it's a bit of a confession here, you know, to have been looking at the literature and going through the interview scripts and all that. But then I found myself there, and I saw my nieces and nephews overseas, you know, and what it did for them to feel part of the tangi, because we were able to allow that through these technologies. Certainly not virtual at this point, but, you know, it brought it home to me. Yep. It's how real it can be.
Yeah. And you know, listening to your kōrero about the virtual technologies, and I think of all the information that, you know, one of the key points was people need access to an expert, access to the resource, and a time and place that is convenient for them because they're time poor. And you know, putting on some goggles and watching how a kuia would talk to their moko, and just mimicking that, you know, those are the things that you can do in your space safely, you know, that safe space. So I'm really interested in what you're going to get.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm just thinking too, maybe as a final comment from me is just thinking about some of the projects that we've supported, and as I said before, we're interested in getting to the innovation space, and of course it could look like a whole lot of things. But some of you, things like fush, the simple, relatively simple idea of real around sort of food and a context. Another very interesting project, Te Reo Matahiapo, is a collaboration in the urban space between Waipareira, Muma, and Marurewa Marae, and creating meaniful context for Te Reo to happen around hākina, kina of different kinds, different events, and language focused around those events. That's probably the research has been telling us for a lot of years. It's an effective way to do it, but actually seeing what it looks like on the ground as people take on board the ideas and look to apply them in contexts as we strive to create more and more opportunities to normalise the language, to have the language available within our communities, and of course across our
and sorry, and you just reminded me that there was the one that was set in Tainui, and it was about what they did was actually got two tipuna, you know, their two tipuna of this big whānau, and they plotted the Te Reo Māori ability to use and speak. And they plotted it across all the generations. I think they went through about 6 or 7 generations, and you could see some lines were really quite strong, and some quite, the reo was absent and missing and had been lost for a while. But when we talk about intergenerational transmission, and they presented that as the picture, and you actually said, you know, what we're trying to get to is having everyone coloured with an ability to speak Te Reo Māori. And when you can see that there's some lines in the different whānau who need more support, then you know where you can wrap yourself around them if you are in the lines that already have, you know, a lot of reo. But that kind of visualisation of what intergenerational transmission actually looks like across your whānau is actually quite a good activity for people to undertake themselves, because it makes the reality of, oh, actually, we're not as good as we are, or we're better than we are. You know?
Ria is kind of frozen a little bit there.
Sorry.
Oh, here we go. All right.
It can't have been anything of value.
I think we're kind of close. I think a message has gone out around questions we haven't answered, that we'll get to those and look to respond to those questions as well. Just check, Ria, any final comments from you at the moment?
No, I actually haven't seen all the questions, so sorry, I haven't actually been responding to them. But if I can have a chance later to have a look at them, is that okay? Yeah.
That'd be great. The only other thing I do want to say is just to reinforce what Ria was saying, that Te Mātāwai, our aim is that Te Mātāwai will be the go-to space for research around revitalisation, and it's going through a teething phase at the moment in terms of getting the site up and running as we want it. But just to be aware of that for future reference. And the other thing too is next week is Māori Language Week. And so there you go, there's an opportunity for us. I know in good authority, it's 48 years since Māori Language Week started, and 50 years since the Te Reo Māori Society began, and they were the ones, along with Ngā Tamatoa, that drove the petition that eventually led to Māori Language Day. It's become the week. And of course, we're into Mahuru Māori. So who knows what you're all doing in terms of the Mahuru Māori space. We've all got all the opportunities we're looking to create for our language as we look to normalise Te Reo Māori as part of the fabric. I mean, it's always been that as far as we're all concerned, but we're looking to get even more ingratiated than we are at the moment here. All right, Tauhi, back over to you.
I think it's you.
Oh, it's me. Okay, sorry. All right. Well, we're going to get this webinar thing. Get it down, Pat. But Hoino, Ria, just thanking you from where we are for representing Te Mātāwai this afternoon as part of our...
Thank you, Ria. Kia ora.
Our webinar there. Te mihi atu hoki kia koutou katoa I hono mai tēnei ahi ai. Koutou e mōhio ana, ka hore pē ki te ana e mōhio ana. Ngā hoa, ngā raukura, o tātou whānau hoki, tēnā koutou katoa. Māku tēnei wāhanga o tō tātou hui e whakakapi. Nā reira e ngā atu o te ao tukupu, tēnei mātou tutuku ia mātou whakamoemiti ki a koutou, nā koutou mātou I tiaki I manaaki turoanga ake o tēnei rā. Ke tautonu mai a koutou manaaki tanga ki rongi a mātou ka wehe atu nei tēnei hui. Manaaki te hoki o mātou nei whānau. Aotira e rā, hoki e māwiwi ane, pōkai kaha nei, he manawa nei, I tēnei wai ruengi ngā tuāhuatanga o te wānei. Ko tā mātou inoi ke piki te ora, te kaha, te māramatanga ki a rātou katoa, tūturu whakamaua ki a tīna, haumi e, hui e, tai ki e. Kia ora tātou katoa.
Kia ora. Kia kite.